You wake up tired after a full night's sleep. You feel anxious for no reason that you can really name. Your joints ache, your memory feels foggy, and you've gained weight even though you haven't changed anything. Maybe your heart races unexpectedly, or you feel hot and then cold, or maybe you just feel, like shitty. So you go to the doctor, and maybe they don't dismiss you right away. Maybe they run some tests, but then they look at you and they say, everything looks fine. I know. So many of my clients have exactly this experience. And here's what you need to know. You are not imagining it. You are not being dramatic. There is a real biological reason that your body feels different. In this episode, you'll get 5 strategies to get the treatment you need and start feeling yourself again. Welcome to the Midlife Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Cheryl Gordon. I'm a yoga therapist and a mindfulness coach, and I'm providing the missing support to midlife women who want to lose weight, sleep better, and feel stronger with my She Mindfulness program. So let's dive in. In your 40s, and for some women even earlier, your body starts producing less estrogen and progesterone. And as you probably know, this is called perimenopause, and it can begin 8 to 10 years before your actual last period. I didn't clue in at all that I was at this stage. Despite heavy periods, sleeplessness, joint pain, many of us just don't make that connection. But here's the thing about estrogen that most people don't know. It's not just a reproductive hormone. It affects your brain, your heart, your bones, your joints, your sleep, your mood, your metabolism, your skin. So when estrogen starts fluctuating, not maybe disappearing yet, but wildly fluctuating, it can affect all of those things at once. And because the symptoms are so varied, and because they often look like many other things, my clients get diagnosed with depression, thyroid, anxiety, chronic fatigue, all kinds of stuff like that. Many of my clients have spent years going from specialist to specialist because they never really get the full picture. You might have been told, just stress, or welcome to getting older, or your labs are normal. Normal labs don't always capture what's happening hormonally, especially when you're in perimenopause. Hormone levels can look normal on a single blood draw and still be causing real symptoms because hormones fluctuate constantly and in this stage quite wildly. This is not your personal failing, my friend. This is a gap in how medicine was designed. Research on midlife women was woefully inadequate until very shockingly recently. And I hear this from my clients all the time and my friends. They're in perimenopause. They're not in perimenopause based on some sort of lab test. But the doctor doesn't even really look at you, right? They don't even spend 5 minutes talking to you about what's really going on in your life. So many of my clients are like Norma. She didn't have hot flashes. However, if anybody had taken time to ask, her mom had really bad osteoporosis. And Norma herself was experiencing severe allergies, a lethargy, and weight gain. But because she wasn't complaining about hot flashes, her doctor didn't investigate any further regarding hormone therapy. Menopause hormone therapy can be really helpful for Norma's other symptoms like allergies, weight gain, lethargy. So Norma came away thinking that hormones weren't for her. And maybe they aren't, but the question hasn't really been thoroughly explored, right? So let's walk through 7 symptoms that are genuinely connected to hormonal changes and that are very frequently dismissed or misdiagnosed. Now you'll know when to push a little harder at the doctors for the answers that you need. The number one symptom I want to talk about is brain fog. This is, the difficulty concentrating, we're forgetting our words mid-sentence, feeling like our mind just won't cooperate. This is real. Estrogen plays a direct role in memory and cognitive function. And research shows that brain fog peaks in the transition phase around menopause and often does improve afterward. The next symptom I want to talk about are anxiety and mood changes. Many women describe developing anxiety for the first time in their lives, usually late 40s or 50s. Others notice that they feel tearful or irritable or more emotionally reactive in ways that just don't feel like them. This isn't a personality change. You're not going through something. It's neurochemistry. Estrogen influences serotonin. Serotonin is a hormone that boosts a feeling of safety and connection. It also influences your dopamine and something else called GABA, which is a neurotransmitter that assists you in concentration, feeling calm and focused. When these things fluctuate, so does your emotional regulation. In addition, the amygdala, which is a gland at the back of the brain here that decides whether you're going to feel under threat or you feel calm, it gets really trigger happy. Due to these chemical changes, the coating on that brain part literally gets thin skinned. Anxiety can show up differently at this stage of life, too, as opposed to when we were younger. It can show up with more anger, insomnia, or particularly insidious, a generalized confusion or uncertainty. Every decision just feels like above my pay grade. So, those are the mood changes that maybe you haven't tied to these fluctuating hormones. The third one is sleep disruption. It's not just hot flashes that can wake you up, but it can also be an inability to fall asleep, stay asleep, or even reach deep sleep. This is because progesterone drops significantly. It's a naturally calming and sleep promoting hormone. When it falls, sleep often suffers. This happened to me for sure. I didn't know. Because we are bombarded with warnings that sleep is so important, the anxiety ramps up and creates a vicious loop of exhaustion. We're prone to anxiety anyway, right? See number two symptom. In the She Mindfulness program, we deal with this program in detail. There are videos to help you understand what's a better morning or evening routine, also other lifestyle changes to set you up for smoother sleep. In other words, naturally boost your progesterone production again. And I show you some solid ways to get deep rest when insomnia is still being really stubborn. And these are the tools that I use almost every night to cope with the crazy ride that we're on as we get older. Now, the fourth symptom, and these aren't in any particular order of importance or weight, it's just these are the things that show up, joint pain and muscle aches. This one does surprise a lot of women. Estrogen has an anti-inflammatory property. So when it drops, many women experience new aches, knees, hips, hands, jaw. And if you've been told it might be arthritis, but it started around the same time as some of these other perimenopause symptoms, it could be the musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause. This has only been recently codified in the medical community, but it is now a verified condition, but a lot of doctors aren't up on it yet. So you need to keep pushing, my friend. And that gets us a little nod back to number three about the sleep. Many of my clients report shoulder or hip pain getting worse at night when they try to sleep, which is a major contributor to insomnia. And all really the doctors talk about is giving them some sleeping pills. I really wish we would look more at the root cause. So, joint pain can be as a result of these hormonal shifts. The fifth symptom is your weight gain, especially around the belly. Estrogen does influence where your body stores fat. As estrogen levels change, fat distribution tends to move towards the belly. And I've done a number of podcasts on this, and I'll put some links in the show notes to give you more detail. But basically, metabolism does slow down if you don't do anything active about it, due to muscle loss. And again, that's the estrogen again. This happens without you slacking off at the gym, without you eating poorly. You can still be doing everything the same. It doesn't, you're not doing anything wrong. This is a natural phenomenon. But like I said, I've done a lot of podcasts on that, and I'll put you some links so you can get some strategies around the belly fat. Heart palpitations. Means like an unexpected racing of your heart or a real fluttering of your heart. This is common and often really scary. In most cases, if you're in perimenopause or menopause, it's benign, but you should always get this symptom checked out. Once your cardiac causes are ruled out, hormonal fluctuations can absolutely cause this, and it is very common. But for women especially, we have to advocate to make sure our cardiac health is in the right place. And the last symptom, and there are more, but I could talk all day. I want to talk about painful sex and other urinary symptoms. The tissues of the vagina and the bladder are estrogen sensitive. And as estrogen drops, these tissues can thin and dry. Not only does this lead to discomfort during sex, but you can also be at higher risk for urinary tract infections like bladder infections. And it also leads the thinning of the tissues and the general decay of the muscles in the vaginal area leads to things like incontinence, which can be urgency. I gotta get to the bathroom now, or like leaking, stress incontinence. This is called the genitourinary symptom of menopause. It's very treatable, but many of us girls are just too embarrassed to bring it up. Doctors won't ask a lot of times. So goodness sakes, girlfriend, let's talk about it right now. Vaginal estrogen. You can get either a cream or an insert, and I think it's basic health care for us midlife women. It is extremely safe because the hormone stays locally in the vagina. It doesn't go systemically throughout the body. And your symptoms, this thinning stuff and this genitourinary syndrome of menopause, it doesn't get better over time. It doesn't settle out again after menopause is over. In fact, your symptoms will continue to get worse the older you live. My grandma had constant UTIs as she aged. With the risk of sepsis, these infections are not only embarrassing and painful, but they can be deadly. I went off the cream. I started on the cream earlier on in my menopausal journey, but then I decided to go on hormone therapy and thought I didn't need the cream. But then I got a UTI. So back on the cream, girlfriend. Really important to get out there and ask questions and don't accept a lot of. Anyway, we're going to talk about that. We'll get right into the strategies now. In the She Mindfulness program, we have these kind of conversations a lot in our group calls. It's a very supportive community where us women can get real answers. Okay, so what do you do now with all of this? Well, I got three things for you. First, track your symptoms. Doctors love charts, numbers, patterns. They're scientifically oriented people. That's why they went into being doctors. So you got to talk with their language. So before your next doctor's appointment, write down everything, not just the big symptom, but all the other symptoms that you've noticed cropping up. You have to write down when they happen, how severe they are, and write down how it's disrupting your life, like the fact that you can't have sex comfortably, or you can't make it, between appointments because you have to go to the bathroom, or you're leaking, or you're giving up on going on hikes with your family because you can't be so far away from a bathroom, or the hot flashes are keeping you awake at night. Be prepared to give evidence of why these symptoms are such a problem for you. And when you present that list, that document to your doctor, it's really hard for them to ignore. It's quite compelling. Just going in and talking about my impression of things, my memory of things, it's not near as reliable as having data on a piece of paper. And if you feel reluctant to have a laundry list for the doctor of problems, pretend that you are going there on behalf of your daughter or your best friend. I know for me, I don't want to cause a lot of fuss. I don't want to be the one that's always complaining. But if I thought that my daughter or my best friend needed me, I'd come out fighting, right? So we can find that assertive energy if we're protecting somebody we love. And of course, I want you to be the one who loves you so much that you come out fighting for you. In the She program, we talk about a lot about self-compassion and self-care and how to love yourself. I think this is such an important point. Okay, the second thing to do after you've made a project of writing down your symptoms is to ask specifically about perimenopause or menopause when you're at the doctor's. A lot of doctors don't bring it up. They don't know how embarrassed you might be. maybe they're not that comfortable talking about it, but you have to bring it up. And you can say something like, I've been doing some reading and I'd like to investigate whether these symptoms are related. And you have to just be direct. And I think most doctors will be very happy that you've brought it up and that you're willing to talk about it because they're hearing about it at conferences. They're reading the papers. They know it's a big deal now. Now, the third thing is I want you to think about maybe getting extra help beyond just your doctor. There are very few general practitioners who have deep training in menopause. In fact, I heard on a podcast, I do not know if this is true or not, but I wouldn't be surprised that gynecologists in North America can completely train in that specialty. They can go through their residency and everything and never take a full class in menopause. It's an elective and they don't have to do it. So I would love you to look into this a little bit more deeply on your own to make sure that you're getting the answers that are right for you. Now, there's a website I'll recommend. It's called menopause.org. It was formerly the North American Menopause Society. Now they've just shortened it to Menopause Society. But they have a directory of certified practitioners all over North America. These are OBGYNs, naturopathic doctors, physiotherapists, nutritionists, all kinds of specialties that are regulated health professionals, but they have taken these extra courses in menopause. So you can get references to see a practitioner if you really need detailed answers. And the other thing I found really helpful on that website was their patient papers. They just list in easy language that you and I can understand about what are the risks of menopause hormone therapy, what are the symptoms, what are all these different questions that I have about sex, about food, about nutrition, about my belly fat. They have like doctor sponsored answers to all of that. That's right up on the latest science. So do some research, my friend. You need those answers. The fourth thing I want to suggest to you is to really start to learn about your options. I hope I've been adding to your education through this podcast. There's so many good ones out there. Treatment is not one size fits all. If you've tried some form of hormone or you've tried some supplement and it hasn't worked, you haven't tried everything yet. So for some women, just doing lifestyle changes. These are the things you hear about all the time, the sleep hygiene, strength training, cutting back on the wine, learning how to manage your stress better. These make a significant difference. And this is where I work in the She Mindfulness program, in the lifestyle changes. And that can really be what most women need. But for me and a lot of others of us, we needed a little bit of help from pharmaceutical medicine and we needed the hormone therapy. The research on that has evolved a lot since the early 2000s. A lot of the fears around it have been dismissed. And again, in our She conversations, we talk about this a lot. And you can do your own research, but don't be afraid to go back and say, this isn't working. We have to try a different thing because there's more stuff coming out all the time. The last piece of advice I have for you, girlfriend, is stand up for yourself. Be your own advocate. You know your body better than anybody with a bunch of letters after his or her name. If you ever walk out from an appointment with me or anybody and you feel that you've been dismissed, you should and have to go back and try with someone else or with that person again. You're allowed to push back. You're allowed to say, I don't think this is just stress. I think there might be something else I need help with. Because here's what I believe. A woman who understands what's happening in her body is a woman who can make informed decisions. And that's exactly what you deserve. And I just want to close with one more thing. I think this is important. For too long, women's health experiences, especially once we're past our fertile years, have been minimized. Symptoms have just been written off to anxiety, we're getting old, or it's just a woman's journey. It's just, like Eve's curse. Oh my God. So many women, I have internalized that. Well, then we start to doubt ourselves. Do we have any right to push back, to ask for this extra health care? And if that's you, please hear me say, your experience is valid. Your body is communicating something very real to you, and you deserve care that takes that seriously. You are not falling apart. You are going through one of the most significant biological transitions a human body can experience. Puberty, pregnancy, and then this one. And it's a lot. With the right information and the right support, you can feel like yourself again, I promise. And I would love to be part of your transformation. The She Mindfulness program is a comprehensive, step-by-step approach. We have the education, we have community, there's support, all kinds of practical tools from yoga and menopause and mindfulness that are arranged for busy and exhausted women. You can learn more by clicking on the link in the show notes or visiting my website at CherylGordonYT.com. If this podcast helped you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave me a comment and tell me what symptom resonated most with you. I read every single one. We'll talk next week. So glad that you're listening to this podcast. But are you ready for a bit of a deeper dive? Well, I'd love to point out the She Mindfulness program. And if you want to learn more, there's a free webinar that I have available on my website at CherylGordonYT.com. You can listen to the talk, decide if this program is for you. It's really unique. I've never seen anything quite like it, and I know it works. So check out the website. Talk soon.